Indeed, I have chosen my culture. I did it a long time ago, and all my life was a consistent development. It's always been a spiritual culture with the highest values, but not going in the direction normally indoctrinated into people, into their minds. So this is really well to start with. When you are asked a question as a child, um, what do you want uh, to be in your life? In your life, well, some people say I want to be famous. Others say I want to be rich, and I want it to be good. So this is a simple statement of one's values and one's life philosophy. It becomes quite complex when one meets evil, pure evil. But let's go through it step by step. Personally, I do not uphold the opinion of the Roman Catholic Church, not the opinion, the conviction, and I would not call it the faith. Um, mm, Rather, an postulate, or not a postulate, an understanding of the Bible. I do not uphold the idea of Christ being the only salvation for a man and being the only um, incarnation of goodness. The Buddhists are an obvious example. So no one will tell me that a Buddhist is a sinner when I see a person who is good, kind, spiritually very high, and actually a paragon of virtue. Not all Buddhists are like that, that's obvious. And Christians are far from the ideals they like to pronounce too. So there is always the person, the particular person. But generally, if we think of the ideal state achieved in the religion, we have an image of a person and of how the person lives with other people. So I do not believe that belief in God is a necessary ingredient of salvation. There are different paths, and I need to make a reservation here, but I do believe that God created Buddhism. So that shouldn't be confused. These are two different things. Anyway, Buddhism developed from Hinduism. Buddha was um, a child of Hinduism, and there is God in Hinduism. However, I want to make another very important emphasis. I do not believe in any unification, in any syncretism, because this is, for me, this is spiritual communism. So that really leads to vagueness and the loss of real virtue. So it is my purpose to unite all religions under one God, or the Buddhists do not need to suddenly start believing in God. Um, Obviously, they have the higher awareness, the absolute. So I don't see any need for them having the image of a person. Um, but I'm quite clear about these paths being different paths. So if you travel the road of the Christian, you don't lose what's in Christianity. And the only point that needs to be made here is the point of the problems that we might have in the doctrine, which I talk a lot about, the doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church going astray for political reasons. So I believe that it needs to be reviewed, and the source is the Bible. Well, it can also have a problem because some may claim that, well, but actually what you find in the Bible is a political decision. Uh, there is only trust in God above that all. So when I open the Bible, I always believe that if this is the word of God, then God somehow will be present and help me to see, and help me see. Um, then I wanted to make another point about Christianity, but it has escaped my memory right now. Of course Christianity can be supported by other religions and we can learn from other people. For example, I see nothing wrong with meditating the goodness of Jesus, and I believe this is practiced in the Christian religion. Actually, I have even seen books that teach the Christian meditation. And obviously meditation is not of the this is of the Eastern origin. This is typical of the Eastern faith, of Buddhism. This is a classical classical practice, and the key. So I believe that Christianity can be supported, and of course it always needs to be checked whether it's not taking someone astray again, because there are all sorts of traps, and perhaps we should not meditate a particular image of God, because it might be that we start, praying to some lady who happens to be a lover of some very rich man, and she was of quite controversial reputation, but because she was his lady, then he had the idea that it would be great if she could become a Virgin Mary. And what a joke it would be if people were on their knees, all those virgins on their knees praying to my little harp. So I can imagine how it happened in the past, or how it could have happened in the past, especially knowing the minds of the mighty, which I do not know well enough, but I believe it must have been a lot of it would be a lot of fun to see all those people indeed doing exactly that, or to choose a Satanist, a proper believer in evil, for the incarnation of the Christ in the image of Jesus, in the icon. So next time we give you the picture of Jesus, wow, that will be someone, and let him be perverted and add a few other things to that. So it can happen. It can really happen with those terrible minds that rule the world, especially nowadays. So as I'm saying, we need to be cautious, and I believe that this is within the power of a human being to direct one's intention. So okay, I'm looking at this picture because it helps me, but actually I know that I'm addressing God, and this is the person I want to reach. This is the presence I want to reach. So perhaps it goes through someone in between, but really this is where I travel, where my thoughts travel, and whom I talk to. But this is an introduction, and I wanted to talk about something else. I know what I wanted to talk about the cultures. So I have chosen my culture, and I have been living this life. Born in Poland, I was baptized to be a Roman Catholic. I was developing in that faith. I must have had some previous experience, and I believe this is true because of the way I experience when what is it, the road of the cross? No, um, uh, what you practice exactly now. I mean, not today any longer, but what you practice. I think it was every Friday in our church. I don't remember exactly. But then I didn't intuit. I didn't know about it at the time. But recently I was reading something and I learned that it was actually the practice. So I practiced it intuitively. So I must have had some earlier experience from the previous life, where you unite with Jesus Christ. I mean, when really you really suffer. I mean, it's very emotional. So this is how I went through all those stations when I was a teenager. Exactly. That was exactly my way. And then there was a time when I thought that there was something wrong with me, and I blamed the Roman Catholic Church for it, for creating this sort of insane, emotional um, self-infliction of suffering, which seemed irrational. But then again, I went on, and finally I decided that it was catharsis. But of course, not theatrical. There might be something in it actually, because I believe that in the ancient theater, when the catharsis was reached, especially if we think of the subject of the sanctity of the body, of the importance of the funeral, and of the desecration, what people do to bodies. So this is really the subject of magnitude, and it should not be rejected on the grounds that this is not Christianity, because there's the spirituality and there are those high values that really unite us, all of us who believe in the spiritual world, because this is really the war we are fighting now. We are fighting the war against materialism. We are fighting the war against transhumanism, which wants to change our conception of a human being as the spirit, the mind, and the body. And you might not like it sounding so New Age, because I know that it sounds the New Age, because this is how the New Age always opens it. But I mean, don't you agree, being a Christian, don't you agree that you have a body where you have the brain, and you have the mind, which is not quite the same as the brain, and basically there's the spiritual presence in each of us, which is really us. So whom we really are, what we do in life. If we can be free from all sorts of things, from other people manipulating us, from our own sins, which can make our acting in life impossible, when we are pure. So this is the spiritual identity. Uh, so um, so it is very important to find those things that we can fight for together against this new definition of a human being as mind and body, because this is the direction in which we are traveling. It is traveling in the annihilation of the spirit. And man has never been in such a danger before. Never, ever. I believe that even the people in the caves were aware of the spiritual presences around them, especially that they must have had their senses quite active. So this is really the war we are fighting. Another war that we are fighting is that for what we Christians, I don't know other writings, other sacred writings yet, but what we Christians have as clear. Perhaps there can be some problem with Hinduism, because they have those combinations, but in the in Judaism, in Christianity, in the Old Testament, I did not read the Judaism sacred books yet, but in the Old Testament, we have it stated clear, each of its own kind. So, and of course, he created them, the woman and the man, the man and the woman. Excuse me. So then I don't see why we are not to reach for the order of math in Egypt, which is a huge, powerful civilization, and this civilization happens to have as part of the order the female and the male as different. So this is really the kind of civilization change we are facing nowadays. These are two key factors. The spirituality, which is about all. We are nothing. If we lose this war, we are really nothing. And then the point about sexes. And this is a general comment. And of course, we, as I'm saying, there's no question about messing up all those orders. It's simply about finding a way to live and win this war against the enemy that is the worst of all enemies one can possibly have. But the point I wanted to make, really, which that was the culture I chose, and that was the culture I was working towards, and what's more, the Virgin, of course, because I am the Virgin. And I started developing it in full awareness because I had been a victim of ostracism as the Virgin since 2009. Since I started working for an outlet, for a wellness gallery outlet in Kazimierz. So there's no question about me belonging to the left wing. There's no question about me having anything to do with communism. There's no question about me having anything to do with Assangeism or whatever development of it. And then there's another question, another point, that is nature. So this is where the Church of Scientology goes bankrupt. And by now I do have reservations concerning the faith as such, because I believe it has turned satanistic. So I got rid of my Scientology books. I still have some that belong to my uncle, so I did not throw them to the rubbish bin. And I just think, because there are so many things in which we agree, so I just think that if by studying my own philosophy, and by studying philosophy and developing my own, I arrive at what Scientology is at, then I see no problem. But I can see it does not work by what has been done to me by the Church of Scientology. So there's no question of, the simple rule of the faith and the follower. But this is not only the Church of Scientology that is collapsing. I created the novel Quintum of Ad Nipolitania, the first name was Agnipolis, so this is really my name, the capital city, Agnipolis. So perhaps there was some meeting point between me and Nergal when I said Agnipolitania for the first time and put it down. But this develops from Agnipolis and Mesopotamia. So this is really mine. And you are not allowed to use it to pervert it in any way. And as for the snake in the icon Agnieszka the Just, it was clearly explained that it was a symbol of symbols. So there are different snakes in South America, different snakes in China, and there's the biblical snake, of course, too. So I will tell you honestly what I think, because the noble queendom of Agnipolitania was really a gift from God, and I know that I'm inspired, that it came from God. I have no doubt about it. I always, when I listen to Christians talking about paganism and so on, I always question it again and again. Am I right? Am I really right? But then there's this feel that this is the task God has given me, to travel that road, to find those religions, to understand those religions, to understand the spiritual, and to see how on this highest level, at the level of God, it is one. Once you reach God the Creator, the beginning of all, the very source, in understanding, of course. I'm not saying, oh, now I'm going to move my hand in the direction of God and touch God, because that might have quite an effect that most probably could be beyond me, but God may make himself tangible too. So I don't know. I believe he did when he became Jesus Christ. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I was talking about that, exactly about that. So of course these questions come, but generally sometimes when I listen to priests, I have an intention that they are making a point to convert me, and I think that what we should start with is the understanding, because I don't think you understand at all what I was presenting. So perhaps it would be a good idea to talk one day, which might not be impossible, which might not be possible anymore, considering the fact that the priests created sexual connections between me and them. Which established my attitude to the Roman Catholic Church in Poland for good. But I have much worse news, because the noble kingdom of Agnipolitania was sacred, and you have turned the snake from this culture into the satanistic snake. I believe it will end with the end of the Abrahamic tradition, which will get rid of the problem with Satanism forever. Agnieszka Beata Magdalena Rojek.